Hey guys, I'm back at you again with another classic review. I know I haven't gotten to the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull thing, I'm sorry, but once I finally get to it, you'll understand why. But I am reviewing yet again another Steven Spielberg film, this time being Jurassic Park, starring Sam Neill, Laura Dern, Jeff Goldblum, Richard Attenborough, Samuel L. Jackson, Wayne Knight, and many others. Really, come on, I mean, you guys know if you've been watching my channel for a while, this made the Nathaniel Ahart and Company's top 100 greatest film series of all time. You know it's up there for me personally, and I was very fortunate to have gotten a chance to see this for its 30th anniversary in 3D, of all things. And my goodness, this film, 30 years later, still holds up and still stands the test of time. And I think that really is a testament to Steven Spielberg as a director. I mean, once again, one of the greatest years for any filmmaker in the history of the medium. I mean, between this and then, of course, his Oscar-winning Schindler's List that finally won him the Academy Award for Best Director, I mean, you really can't ask for much more. And though I haven't seen Schindler's List in years, I do have to rewatch it. I do think that this film is probably my favorite of the two just because of how much fun this is, how exhilarating, how thought-provoking, how tight this film is. I can say so many things about this movie, and I'll try to keep it short because I think a lot of things have already been said. And I know some people are like, it isn't their favorite Spielberg film because it starts off a little slower or whatever. And I will say, my love for it, at least in regards to my ranking, did fall quite a bit. Maybe it was because it took a little bit to get into, but then again, I don't think a single moment is wasted right from the get when they're setting up the park, when they're setting up these characters, you know, especially Alan Grant, played by Sam Neill. Just absolutely an incredible portrayal of this character, and really the heart and soul of this whole movie, you could say. It really is his story. And the film starts with him, obviously, at this excavation, and him telling this kid, who he finds a bit annoying, he's telling him about the velociraptors in vivid detail, and how they'll tear out your stomach, and they'll surround you from both sides. It's really a great scene, and I think sets up this character perfectly. Once again, I think all these characters are set up perfectly, you know. Especially, I mean, come on, you gotta love Jeff Goldblum as Dr. Ian Malcolm, who really is probably the best character in the entire series. And I think you get so much of his personality right from the beginning, that very suave, kind of nerdy, sexy sort of guy who just, in his own awkward way, can kind of slither in and out so seamlessly into any conversation, and so charismatically, too, at the same time. Which kind of is Jeff Goldblum in a nutshell, but my goodness, this is definitely one of his definitive roles. Especially like the scene where he's with Ellie, played by Laura Dern, who's also another amazing character and a central part of the story, where he's like, do you know what chaos theory is? You know, and he's like touching her hand and with the water droplets. I mean, once again, the humor in this film, as to be expected, is tremendously funny when it needs to be, and I think Steven Spielberg is the master at portraying human nuance through humor, and also just in general. I mean, there's certain shots in this movie that really, just by the look on these characters' faces, you can really tell how they're feeling in that moment. And I will get into spoilers here, obviously, because I mean, it's 30 years old, and I'm sure most of you have seen it anyway. But I also have to give a lot of props to the late, great Sir Richard Attenborough in this as John Hammond. My goodness, I think he is definitely the figurehead in this film, especially because he's the creator of Jurassic Park and whatnot. But just his character alone, like, you understand his drive to create something that he feels so passionate about, to be enjoyed by everybody, even if his logic is a bit flawed in executing it, obviously, because we all know what happens. It doesn't end entirely well. And I just love how consistent these characters' methodologies are throughout the entire film, especially Hammond's, because when he's like talking to Nedry, played by Wayne Knight, who obviously just every time he shows up, it's like you just think it's Newman, and it's amazing. I just love what he does in this film. But when he's like talking about in that scene when he's at the computer, he's like talking about his debt, and you can kind of see there's some tension between him and Hammond, and he says to him, "I don't blame people for their mistakes, but I expect them to pay for them." It's like, wow, you know, especially considering what happens at the end of the film with the park and his decision to shut it down. It really does. The writing like that, I think, really impresses me more than anything. And then, of course, yet again, the humor with him, every chance he gets, you know, spared no expense, you know. Just an absolutely amazing character and an integral role in this film. And I just love, yet again, as I was speaking about the beginning, I just love the theological discussions they have about the ramifications of having these dinosaurs brought back to life. Of course, that famous quote from Ian Malcolm where he's like, your scientists were too preoccupied with whether or not they could that they didn't think about whether they should. You know, I think that whole sequence in the movie sums up the entire film. And I just love that Spielberg takes his time to have these conversations, because I think that's what makes the movie more powerful when everything actually does go down. The fact that it is not just some mindless, you know, dinosaur action being thrown at you, and great action, mind you, but there is really something to chew on, something behind it, and I think that's what really makes this film all the more effective. In the action sequences themselves, my goodness, just incredibly paced, incredibly tight editing from Michael Kahn, obviously all across the Spielberg's films from this era, but especially in this one. I mean, you just watch the scene where the T-Rex appears for the first time and is like messing with the car with the kids inside. Just the blocking of that entire scene, it's some of the best I've ever witnessed on film. It really is just flawlessly executed directing from top to bottom. And I absolutely love the relationship that Alan develops with these kids in this movie, because that really is what the movie is about, as much as it is about the, you know, ramifications of, you know, science being sought for profit, or, you know, just how it explores the idea of man playing God. I mean, we've seen this story many times over, but I think this might be the best example of it in the history of cinema. And I just think, my goodness, yet again, it's such a great excuse too for so many amazing action sequences. You could talk about the scene where Alan and Tim are trying to like escape the tree, or the scene where Tim is trying to jump off the fence and Ellie's trying to turn the power back on at the generator, or, my goodness, the scene where Nedry loses the eggs and gets attacked by the velociraptors, or one of my favorites, the velociraptor chase sequence in the kitchen is one of the most brilliantly executed, tightly edited sequences in the movie. And I love that these kids in the film aren't played to be dumb or annoying. Like, they're legitimately resourceful. I mean, right from the beginning, Timmy, played by Joseph Mazzello, he's like trying to like talk with Grant, and he's like annoying him, asking him about his book, insulting his book compared to another author's research on dinosaurs. You can tell that he is very, very interested in what is going on and is very much a thinker himself. So it makes sense when they are put in these situations that these kids react in the best way they know how to, in being as resourceful as they can. And of course, I just love how they use the mirrors in the kitchen to kind of trick the velociraptors. It really is just such an amazing cat and mouse chase, as is most of this movie. But really, I mean, by the end of this film, when they're on the helicopter escaping, and you just see the kids in Alan's arms, and just that look that he gives Ellie and the smile on her face, like, it tells you everything you need to know about his arc, and really just brings a tear to my eye. It really is such a beautiful ending, set to the amazing score by none other than John Williams. Oh my goodness, you know, so iconic that the themes in this, even if that's mainly what the score consists of, are just those themes. it really is just so triumphant, so sweeping as you'd expect. I mean, especially when they go into Isla Nublar for the first time and you just hear that score swell up. It really just sends chills up your spine and reminds you how iconic this film is from top to bottom. My goodness, what else can you say about Jurassic Park that hasn't already been said? Of course, Samuel Jackson showing up in this, and to think this is a year before Pulp Fiction, he was about to blow up, but of course that iconic line from him, "Hold on to your butts," you know. Just absolutely amazing. I really think that this is such a intellectual achievement as much as it is an exhilarating action set piece from front to back. I mean, really, how can you argue this not being one of Spielberg's absolute best films? It's so iconic, it's endlessly quotable. There's so many moments that are just so awe-inspiring. I mean, especially when they see the dinosaurs for the first time in Jurassic Park. And yet again, I have to mention the blend of the 3D and practical effects, because, you know, especially watching it 30 years later, there might be like one shot where I was like, okay, like it kind of looks old, but it doesn't look bad. You know what I mean? Like, it really is so seamless to the extent that it's not hard to see why it won the Oscar for Best Visual Effects, and I still think it probably could have won it today, if I'm being entirely honest. It's just an amazing technical achievement and really pushed things forward in a way that, you know, was profound, but still feels timeless in that sense because of those practical effects and the creative team around this film just pouring in their absolute entirety of their being into making this just such a wonderful and timeless film. Even the animated tour sequence at the beginning is so endlessly creative. Like, there's not a single moment that didn't have some sort of thought put into it. The only thing, if I had to criticize it, and I don't think this is really that much of a criticism, but Lexi, of course, Ariana Richards' character, says she's like, there's like one line where she's like, "Oh, well, don't call me a computer nerd, I'm a hacker." And then she like hacks into the system and saves the day. Like, that seemed a little convenient, but there's so much tension built up in that scene. It's just so minuscule that I can overlook it. You know what I mean? But if you were to criticize it at all, I completely understand if someone did take fault with that scene, but I personally don't, and because I think that this really is just such a massive technical achievement and just an amazing film in general, I'm going to give Jurassic Park a 10 out of 10. You should have seen it coming. I mean, my goodness, if I haven't talked enough positive things about this movie on this channel already, here's just some more praise to be thrown at it, as it absolutely deserved. And I gotta say, I love the 3D conversion in this. Like, I really was surprised how much depth was in the frame between the characters and in relation to each other and the space on screen. And just the amazing use of 3D when they were doing rack focuses as well. It really kind of blew me away because I wasn't expecting it to be that good. You know, especially considering this was originally shot before 3D was really a thing in the movie industry. But my goodness, I honestly was happy I got to see it in 3D as opposed to 2D. It really was that good. But my goodness, yeah, if you guys have the time, please go see it in theaters. I still think, at least where I am, it's still playing this week. So please go check it out on the big screen if you haven't seen it before, or if you haven't seen it in 30 years. On the big screen, or just in general. Please, please, please go see this Spielberg masterpiece once again. I'm sure you won't be disappointed. I know for a fact that I wasn't. But yeah, regardless, let me know what you guys think of Jurassic Park in the comments below. I know most of you on this who watch this channel do love this film, as do many other people. Just an absolute timeless classic. And of course, if you like what you're seeing here, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. There's going to be more movie reviews coming down the line. I actually am planning on reviewing a recent film that came out on Max and some other streaming platforms. I won't tell you what it is, but I can't wait to talk about it. And yeah, guys, until the next video, I will see you later.